for me. Amazing love, how can it be that thou, my God, shouldst die for me?
Good singing tonight. I don't know what I'm on here, so let me turn everything on. And
I turn that off.
oh, okay. Okay, got it. Make sure you look at your bulletin. There are a couple of things coming up. Don't forget, if you want spaghetti on Wednesday night, I believe it's downstairs, and there's the sign-up sheet out there, so sign up for that. And it's on a donation basis, and then there's some leftovers from the bake sale out there as well after the service. So if you'd like to do that, you're welcome to. Todd, will you pray for us?
Good evening. I'd like to read the missionary letter tonight. And how many Willises do we have ministering in our church as missionaries? 2. Where's one of the families? Spain. Where's the other family? United States, Tennessee. The Spain missionaries, or the Willises, they have 4 children. One's in college, and they're working with the Basque people. And the letter I have tonight, which ask Brother Bill Green to pray for him after I read the letter, is from the Willis family who's in the, I gave it away, chaplaincy. And he travels for our Foundations Baptist Fellowship International and the International Conference of Evangelical Chaplain Endorsers. So he has 2 groups that he works with. And as a chaplain, he's busy. And you're going to find out when I read this letter tonight. So see if you can keep up with me. Put track shoes on your ears. How many children does he have? 6. Yeah. 2 are out of the home. One's at Ambassador Baptist Bible College. One is graduating next month. One's in junior high. And then they have Caitlin. She is their child with handicapping conditions. So I'm not sure how old she is or where she would be. But they have 6 children, and he travels a lot. So keep his wife in prayer, especially. And he mentions his family here. Ministry news this quarter has been very busy for me with my responsibility with the two groups I just mentioned. I started the month of January traveling to the Virginia area for about a week. While there, I spoke in a high school chapel, conducted a men's prayer breakfast, and preached in a local church in Virginia Beach. From there, I made my annual trek to Washington, D.C., where our group visited several of our congressmen and women, and then participated in the annual group meeting for the chaplain endorsers and the Armed Forces Chaplain Board meeting. I finished up the month speaking in 3 churches in Colorado and attending the FBFI Rocky Mountain Regional Meeting in Greeley, Colorado. While there, I also had a chance to visit a few of our military and local community chaplains. Local community chaplains, that's not just in the military, but they may be a chaplain for a fire department or police department, etc. In February, that was just January, I finished up my first Western journey by speaking in a church in Nebraska, N-E? Nebraska? Boy, I need to go back to school. Like I wasn't there for 40 years. No, with my schooling, that'd be about 50 years. Wow. 2 weeks later, I traveled back out west to Arizona, where I spoke in 2 churches as well as attended the FBF Winter Board meeting in Glendale, Arizona. Were you there, Pastor, at the Glendale meeting? Okay, so Pastor got a chance to see him, I think. While at that meeting, we conducted our annual chaplain makeup training. We had 12 chaplains participate in the training. I finished up my Arizona travels recruiting at International Baptist College and Seminary. We had a visiting missionary from there and the board of their missions group, where I am currently working with 2 new recruits. That's just February. In March, I had to take a few days off and have a procedure done in the Nashville, Virginia Medical Center, VA Medical Center, not Virginia, VA Medical Center. That sounds like us around here having our fingers and body parts being taken care of. So we need to pray for each other health-wise. After a couple of recovery days, I was back on the road to Florida for a week, where I recruited at Pensacola Christian College. I wonder if Grace saw him. Possibility. Don't forget Grace. Keep her in prayer. She comes home next week, so she's coming home. Meanwhile, back at the chaplaincy, and spoke in their seminary chapel service. What a blessing. My family was also able to travel with me since the kids were on spring break that week. The next week, I traveled back east where I spoke at 2 different churches and recruited on the campus at Appalachian Bible College. I finished out this quarter, still going on, by attending FBFI South Regional Meeting in Apex, North Carolina. From there, I traveled around North Carolina and recruited at Piedmont International College and Ambassador Baptist College. While at Ambassador, I spoke in the weekly Missions Prayer Band meeting. One highlight of this month was attending the graduation of one of our young chaplains from the Chaplain Basic Officers Leadership course on April 14th. This past weekend, I spoke in 2 churches in Georgia. This was written April 19th. I am home for a few weeks getting ready for our upcoming annual fellowship and chaplain training in Morrison, Colorado in June. And here's some family news. All the family's doing well. The biggest news is that Daniel and Amanda are expecting their 3rd child and our 4th great-grandchild. That's me. Our 4th grandchild. School will be out soon, and Micah will be graduating from high school on June 1st. Carissa is finishing up her 3rd year at Ambassador and returning home to work and complete her summer internship at our church. Here are the praises. Don't forget to thank the Lord for praises when you pray for them. Daniel and Amanda expecting. The opportunity to visit several churches and colleges this quarter, which I just read to you about. Many new prospects and recruits for the chaplaincy. We need to get the right kind of chaplains in. I mean, there's chaplains in there that don't even believe Jesus can save you. So we need to get the right kind of chaplains in our services and in our communities. And then praises for blessings and safety in travels. Now here's some prayer requests. Healing for Nate Paul, the son of Drew Paul. And Drew Paul is an endorsed chaplain for our group. My father-in-law's Parkinson's and care needs, which means His wife is probably helping care for her father. Upcoming travels to Colorado and Alaska this summer. Wisdom in the future planning for my family and the FBFI ministry. Now, let me give you a little background. He lists here how many chaplains are involved in the ministry he's involved in, responsible for. We really need to pray for him. Another one of our military chaplains was selected for promotion to colonel this month. This is in April. There are currently 46 military chaplains and or candidates in our fellowship. We endorse 13 local community chaplains, fire departments, police departments, etc. There are 8 applicants, somewhere in the process of becoming an endorsed chaplain. 2 of these applicants are women working in their local communities. 6 men have recently shown interest in the chaplaincy, and I was able to visit with 18 of our current chaplains or applicants this quarter. And blessings come to you from Joe Willis and his family. Brother Bill, would you pray for him, please?
Okay, we have time for a couple more. So we go back to this side. Yes. Courtney. 622. Thank you, Lord, for saving my soul. Thank you, Lord, for making me whole. Thank you, Lord, for giving to me thy great salvation, so rich and free. And one last one, yes, sir.
Song number 7.
I'm sorry?
Song number 7.
Song number 7. Come thou fount. Come thou fount of every blessing, to my heart to sing thy grace. Streams of mercy never ceasing, call for songs of loudest praise. Teach me some melodious sonnet, sung by flaming tongues above. Praise the mount I'm fixed upon it, mount of thy redeeming love. Good singing tonight. Pastor.
Hey, before you go, were we going to do the church in the park tonight? Plan that?
Yes. I owe you something.
We'll get some of it ready. All right. We have a plan for this year. How many of you were at some of the church in the park things last year? How many of you got to go to some of those? All right, a lot of you did. We've looked at those the last 2 years. We did it on Friday night. I forget, what did we do it first? Saturday night.
Friday night.
2 years ago. Did we do it Friday nights? Okay, that's right, Friday nights, but we tried it in Winchester at Jim Barnett Park, and the setting just didn't really work as well for us there. We didn't have people coming by. Then we moved to Clearbrook Park, and the setting has worked really well, but we're not sure that the time is right. And so we talked about it, Joe and a couple of other people, and we're going to try that again this year. We think that there still is value in that. but we'd like to try it at noon on Saturday, and we're going to do it one time a month for June, July, and August. And so the first one is actually Saturday the 8th, and it'll be over at the same place at Clearbrook Park. Same pavilion too?
No, it's different.
Different pavilion, so we'll get you all that information, but it'll be over there. But we would like to kind of hand it off from college and career to get some other people involved in that. And so there are a couple of things that we may need some people just to do to help us be prepared for that. It's once a month, and we want to, the objective of that is we want to be able to reach people. And we think maybe doing it in the park, you'll get some people to come that might not come to some other things. And so we're going to put more information out about it and really a plan and have more of a lunchtime setting for that, and then just have a short service like we've had before. So I think it'll be something that you'll enjoy, but we do need a little bit of help with some things for that. So what are some of the things that we're going to need people to do for that?
We've got chairs and signs and music stands to pick up and bring back to the church.
Okay.
We've got our person who was choosing the music and making copies of the hymns is heavy with child, so she's going to need some assistance with that. I
The
think
child or the music? Yeah.
she may need assistance with both. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And then I'm trusting Alex will still do keyboard, and then the preaching will be between you and your two associates there. And then what was a big hit was hot dogs and snacks. So that would require somebody getting there about an hour and a half early, starting up the grill. Maybe somebody picking up hot dogs, somebody picking up the boxes of chips, and we had some fruit as well and drinks. So there's a lot involved, and probably the best thing we can do is maybe put a sign-up list out on the desk,
Okay.
and have people sign up for those things.
All right. That would be great. So if you can help with those are some of the things that we're going to need people to do for us. And you can coordinate that with Joe, and we'll do the sign up. But I know one of the big things is somebody that just has a small truck or van big enough to pick up some chairs, signs, and music stands here, and then make sure that we get them back at the end of that. So if we can get several people involved, that of course makes things a lot easier. All right.
Specials also.
Yes. Yeah, with some special music, if you're willing to help with that, we could use that. Any questions or input that you have about the church in the park, things that you are wondering, or suggestions that you have? Okay. All right, well, we'll see how it goes. I think it has potential, and so we'll see how that goes this year, and we'll get those sign-up sheets out so that you can begin to get prepared for those. About a month away, we'll have our first one. All right, let's turn to Romans chapter 1 again, and I mentioned this morning that both this evening and Wednesday night we'll be back in the same passage in Romans chapter 1 as we make our way through the book of Romans, just studying it a bit at a time. And in this passage there are several things that come up as part of the study that are important because they answer some questions that we have. And if you are going to the missionary story, you can go ahead out. There you go. Sorry, I forgot you guys. So in this particular passage, there is a question that is answered for us that some people really struggle with. And that is the question about a person who may be in a place where they never get the opportunity to hear the gospel. And to us, from a very humanistic point of view and a very limited viewpoint, we really struggle with the fact that somebody could end up in hell that has never heard a sermon on Jesus Christ. Now, what I always tell people is, be assured that God is a just God. I don't doubt that people will pay for their sin, but God is a just God, and that He will do the right thing. And I have to tell people that with babies all the way up to adults, that God is a just God, and that's for Him to work out. But there's a truth in the Bible that sometimes people know, but they've never studied the passage where this is taught. And so the passage that I want you to focus on with me today is this first section where we were talking about God. And remember this morning we looked at the fact that verse 18 contrasts with verse 17. Verse 17 talks about the fact that therein, or in the gospel, the righteousness of God is revealed. And then in verse 18 he says, for the wrath of God is revealed. And people like the righteousness of God, they like the love of God, they like the very positive attributes of God. But here's the wrath of God that is revealed. And people struggle a little more with that. But this passage teaches very clearly that people face God's wrath not simply because God is angry, not because not because of anything other than the fact that they suppress truth. And so we threw that out this morning. We talked a little bit about that, but I want you to go a little more in depth in that this morning. And remember that we're looking at this particularly from a divine perspective. That is, that instead of looking as a human from our point of view, our vantage point here on earth and looking around horizontally, I want you to see it from this divine perspective, that God is looking down and seeing humanity as a whole. He's the creator of humanity. And so when he teaches us something, he's not speculating on it. He's saying, here's what I see and here's what I know. This is not guesswork on his part. This is something he's telling us is true and that we need to accept as truth from him. And as he comes to this first part, in verse 18, it says, for the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all unrighteousness or ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who hold the truth in unrighteousness. And again, here's this verse that talks about holding the truth in unrighteousness, and you would be, it would help you if you have a King James to put hold down the truth. The idea is hold it back or hold it down. And the New American Standard actually uses the word suppress, which is a very accurate word for that. And so it's the idea that God's wrath is revealed against people who hold down the truth. People who suppress the truth. And it's suppression of truth within themselves and within the culture as a whole. That they don't want the truth about God to really come out, and so they have decided that they're going to suppress that. Just if we don't talk about it, then maybe it'll go away and we won't have to deal with it. And so what's going to happen tonight is that we're going to simply go from verses 18 through 23, and I want you to see what God is telling us from his divine perspective about people suppressing the truth. I mentioned in passing this morning, if they're suppressing the truth, remember, they have the truth to suppress. Well, where do they get it? How do people come up with truth? How do we know that people have truth? You say, well, they've been in church and been in Christian schools and been in homes where mom and dad have talked about them, but God goes way beyond that. Now, this is not necessarily what we would call a soteriological passage, but it clearly is a revelation passage, that God reveals himself to people. He doesn't necessarily reveal how to be saved, but he reveals that he exists and that he is there. All right? So, if we go to verse 18, we read it in the King James a moment ago, and we spent some time on this morning, so we won't do a lot more with it, but I want you to begin the passage with the theme sentence is really verse 18, the first part of this. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who suppress the truth in unrighteousness. That's the theme of this section of Scripture. People are suppressing truth. Now, he doesn't stop there. Let's go on and let's read this. Verse 18, let's go to verses 19 and 20. And as you look at this, the universe is a revelation of the power and deity of God. The universe itself reveals who God is. So let me read this. First of all, in the King James, it says, because. Here's why his wrath is coming and why they're suppressing truth. Because that which may be known of God is manifest in them. For God hath shown it unto them. For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. Now, when I study a passage of Scripture, I will often do something that's called a block outline. A block outline is not like like you're diagramming a sentence where you're putting the subject and the verb and all the parts of speech that are there. A block diagram instead takes a phrase and puts the subordinate phrase underneath it so you can see how things are laid out in a particular verse. It's hard to do that on a screen behind me because I don't have enough room to indent as far as we need to, but I've done that a little bit with some of these verses. If you look at verse 19, it says, because. And then you would inset the next, because here is the explanation. So in the block, you would inset that just a little bit. So he says, let me give you the reason that this is true. And here is that reason. There are two phrases that are there. That which is known about God is evident within them. Now think about that for just a second, because the things that are known about God are evident. It's obvious within them. And then there's a second phrase there. For God made it evident to them. Now notice here that there are these two ideas. Number one, you have this idea that is within them. And so as you study mankind, not from a human perspective, not from a horizontal point of view, but you study it from a divine point of view, here is God looking down at every person, and he's saying, when I created people, that which is known about God, what you need to know about God the Creator, is evident inside every person. Every person has a knowledge of God within them. Now, let me ask for your help a little bit tonight. What are some evidences that we know God is in people? And I think you'll recognize some of these. Kara? There is a universal desire to worship something. How do you know that? Kara? Because we do it. Yeah. What do people worship? Themselves. Money. Everything, yeah. You have people worshiping trees, people cut trees into idols, worship stones, worship stars, worship the moon, worship the sun, worship other people. I mean, you can go through the religions of the world. If you just take a religions class, that is enough to confirm what is said in that statement. Why in the world do people have this desire to worship something? I mean, it doesn't matter what it is. Every culture, there is a desire to worship some kind of being or some kind of God, or have something above them that they feel like is the controlling factor in what's going on around them. And all the way through the Bible you see that. There were cultures around the Israelites who worshiped these gods, Molech and Chemosh, Baal worship, and you had all of these different gods that were a constant temptation to the children of Israel. Well, what that proves to us is that within every person, there is a knowledge of God. There is a knowledge of a deity of some kind. So, he said, here's the reason that I can tell you they're suppressing truth. Because I have implemented within them, I've ingrained within every person a knowledge that there is a God. It's there already. Now, notice the second statement that he makes. For God made it evident to them. Now, that's a different statement. One is in them, within them, or in them, and the other is to them. What does he mean by this? How has God made himself evident to people? David? Nature itself. Yeah. I still am perplexed that people can go out at night and look at the sky on a clear night and the just the order and how beautiful it is, and think that somehow that exploded into existence. That all of that is so orderly, and the people, before we had Siri telling us where to go, actually used the stars and could count on the stars, that they would do what they were supposed to do. So nature itself, you go out and you just look at flowers. You look at the mountains of West Virginia, you have to know there's a God. That's just there. He said, I made it as evident as I possibly could, even through some of the bizarre animals that are out there. Christy told me something that I haven't forgotten. She's been teaching science, and when she was teaching science one day, I'd always wondered about dogs. The thing that bothers me is, people say if they're cold, or if you're cold, they're cold. That just isn't true. Because my dog would go lay on the concrete when it was 0 outside the door. Now, if I laid on the concrete when it was 0, I'd be dead. But a dog actually has a separate circulatory system for their feet. That's why they can go out and run and play in the snow, and their feet don't get cold. God has done some amazing things when you start studying animals. And the thing they try to convince us is, they just had to adapt that way. If that's true, I like to eat so well, I think I would have adapted to 2 mouths and 2 stomachs. Here is, she pictured that now, so sorry. But here is God saying, I want you to look from my perspective. I'm telling you, when I created the world and created mankind, here's why I can tell you that they're suppressing the truth, because that which is known about God is evident within them. And evident is a strong word. It's obvious within them. They know there's something there. They know that they have a desire to worship. For God made it evident to them or all around them. They should have no trouble at all seeing that. Now, verse 20 then is a little more explanation of this last phrase right here, for God made it evident to them. He goes on and says, this one's a little smaller, I think you'll be able to pick it up. You may have to look at your own Bible, but again, look at the indention there. He said, for since the creation of the world, since the world was created, His invisible attributes, that's kind of funny to me because His attributes are all invisible. We can't see God. But all of His attributes, His eternal power, His divine nature, those 3 things, He said, when God created the world, from the minute He created it, His invisible attributes, His eternal power, His divine nature, and then look what He says, have been clearly seen. Again, here's a strong word in its original construction. It's simply the idea they are obviously visible, that there's no hiding them. They're not shaded. They're not kind of hidden over here. They are obvious for those who want to see them. And he says they're clearly seen by anybody who's actually looking at them. And so then he goes on and says, let me tell you a little more about it. Being understood through what has been made. You can understand God through what He's made, and so that they are without excuse. Now, this is something that should help us because, again, from our very human perspective, we are often troubled by this idea that, that people haven't had the testimony of God. And I do separate things a little bit because I think people can know there's a God, but I think God is depending on us in the soteriology, the salvation, to present Christ to them. But I think people know there's a God, and they suppress that. And he said, I want to just be clear, from my perspective as God, I have made things in such a way so that they are without excuse. If you have chosen not to see God, if you've chosen to be an atheist, if you've chosen to say there is no God, it's because you choose to do that. You suppress truth. It's not because you can't find it, it's because you don't want to find it. It's because you have chosen to ignore those things which are so evident around you and are so clearly seen. You've chosen to do that. And remember, that's not my words. Those aren't my words. Those are God's words. He said, that's how I made this. I made the world this way, and I made humanity, and I made them this way. Now, let's go on then to verses 21 through 23. Verse 21, he says, because, here's another because statement, that when they knew God, they glorified Him not as God. Neither were thankful, but became vain in their imaginations, and their foolish heart was dark.
They say a picture is worth 1,000 words, and I'm hoping that this video will be worth 1,000 words on this webpage. Hi, I'm Pastor Wright from Keystone Baptist Church. Thank you for taking the time to visit our website today. Unfortunately, words on a page can only do so much to give you a feel for a church. There's no substitute for actually visiting. You probably already know that. But sometimes walking into a strange place with people you don't know is a little intimidating. That's why we've created this video. I want to give you a visual tour of what to expect when you're our guest here at church. When you arrive at the church, you can park in either the front or the back parking lot, but you'll probably end up parking in the back parking lot because there are more spaces here. From that parking lot, look for the wide sidewalk that'll lead you into the west wing. The west wing doors will take you into a hallway that'll take you to the foyer, and in that foyer is an information desk. There'll be somebody at that information desk that can help you get your children to Sunday school, the nursery, or wherever else you need. Don't forget, anytime during the process of coming in, our church family will be happy to help you. Just ask somebody. They'll point you in the right direction. Families are always concerned about the care for their children. When you arrive here at the information desk, one of our church members will either be behind this desk or right outside the desk. They'll help you get to the right place. On Wednesday night, we have our Patch Club, Keystone Kids, and Royalty Club. Those young people will go to the different areas, and then the adults will be here in the auditorium for the Bible study. Now, for those of you who have young children, our nursery is down the hallway on the east wing. As you go down that hallway, you'll find that there are two doors. If you go to the last door, there's a procedure for picking up and dropping off your child. When you pick up and drop off your child, our nursery workers will give you some information, and they'll answer your questions for you. Those workers rotate from service to service under the direction of Mrs. Skidmore. Now, I know, because I'm the father of 3 children, that the last thing you want to hear is your child crying when you leave. But that's a normal thing. When you leave the nursery, you'll be given one of these. It is a parent pass, and it's a pager. If our staff cannot get your child settled down, or if they need you during the service for any reason, they can page you anywhere in our building. Rest assured, making your children feel comfortable is one of our highest priorities. Our Sunday morning service begins at 10 o'clock with traditional hymns, Bible reading, prayer, and then a Bible-based message. When I get up to begin the message, I will dismiss those who are 3 years old through the 3rd grade to go to our junior church program. They'll go out the auditorium and into the foyer. Our workers will meet them there and take them to their classrooms. The service begins at 10 o'clock, and it'll go to between 11:15 and 11:30. When the service is over, the junior church workers will bring the young people back up and bring them directly to you. The same thing is true for Sunday night, except Sunday nights there is no junior church, and our young people sit in the church service with their families. There's a lot more that I would like to show you, but we're about out of time. We'll put some more clips at the end of this video if you have time to watch them. But you've seen the basic layout of our church and the services. I'll be happy to give you a longer tour in person. Thanks again for visiting our website. I look forward to visiting with you in person. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words, and I'm hoping that this video will be worth 1,000 words on this webpage. Hi, I'm Pastor Wright from Keystone Baptist Church. Thank you for taking the time to visit our website today. Unfortunately, words on a page can only do so much to give you a feel for a church. There's no substitute for actually visiting. You probably already know that. But sometimes walking into a strange place with people you don't know is a little intimidating. That's why we've created this video. I want to give you a visual tour of what to expect when you're our guest here at church. When you arrive at the church, you can park in either the front or the back parking lot, but you'll probably end up parking in the back parking lot because there are more spaces here. From that parking lot, look for the wide sidewalk that'll lead you into the west wing. The west wing doors will take you into a hallway. It'll take you to the foyer, and in that foyer is an information desk. There'll be somebody at that information desk that can help you get your children to Sunday school, the nursery, or wherever else you need. Don't forget, anytime during the process of coming in, our church family will be happy to help you. Just ask somebody. They'll point you in the right direction. Families are always concerned about the care for their children. When you arrive here at the information desk, one of our church members will either be behind this desk or right outside the desk. They'll help you get to the right place. On Wednesday night, we have our Patch Club, Keystone Kids, and Royalty Club. Those young people will go to the different areas, and then the adults will be here in the auditorium for the Bible study. Now, for those of you who have young children, our nursery is down the hallway on the east wing. As you go down that hallway, you'll find that there are two doors. If you go to the last door, there's a procedure for picking up and dropping off your child. When you pick up and drop off your child, our nursery workers will give you some information and they'll answer your questions for you. Those workers rotate from service to service under the direction of Mrs. Skidmore. Now, I know, because I'm the father of 3 children, that the last thing you want to hear is your child crying when you leave. But that's a normal thing. When you leave the nursery, you'll be given one of these. It is a parent pass, and it's a pager. If our staff cannot get your child settled down, or if they need you during the service for any reason, they can page you anywhere in our building. Rest assured, making your children feel comfortable is one of our highest priorities. Our Sunday morning service begins at 10 o'clock with traditional hymns, Bible reading, prayer, and then a Bible-based message. When I get up to begin the message, I will dismiss those who are 3 years old through the 3rd grade to go to our junior church program. They'll go out the auditorium and into the foyer. Our workers will meet them there and take them to their classrooms. The service begins at 10 o'clock, and it'll go to between 11:15 and 11:30. When the service is over, the junior church workers will bring the young people back up and bring them directly to you. The same thing is true for Sunday night, except Sunday nights there is no junior church, and our young people sit in the church service with their families. There's a lot more that I would like to show you, but we're about out of time. We'll put some more clips at the end of this video if you have time to watch them. But you've seen the basic layout of our church and the services. I'll be happy to give you a longer tour in person. Thanks again for visiting our website. I look forward to visiting with you in person. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words, and I'm hoping that this video will be worth 1,000 words on this webpage. Hi, I'm Pastor Wright from Keystone Baptist Church. Thank you for taking the time to visit our website today. Unfortunately, words on a page can only do so much to give you a feel for a church. There's no substitute for actually visiting. You probably already know that. But sometimes walking into a strange place with people you don't know is a little intimidating. That's why we've created this video. I want to give you a visual tour of what to expect when you're our guest here at church. When you arrive at the church, you can park in either the front or the back parking lot, but you'll probably end up parking in the back parking lot because there are more spaces here. From that parking lot, look for the wide sidewalk that'll lead you into the west wing. The west wing doors will take you into a hallway. It'll take you to the foyer, and in that foyer is an information desk. There'll be somebody at that information desk that can help you get your children to Sunday school, the nursery, or wherever else you need. Don't forget, anytime during the process of coming in, Our church family will be happy to help you. Just ask somebody. They'll point you in the right direction. Families are always concerned about the care for their children. When you arrive here at the information desk, one of our church members will either be behind this desk or right outside the desk. They'll help you get to the right place. On Wednesday night, we have our Patch Club, Keystone Kids, and Royalty Club. Those young people will go to the different areas, and then the adults will be here in the auditorium for the Bible study. Now, for those of you who have young children, our nursery is down the hallway on the east wing. As you go down that hallway, you'll find that there are two doors. If you go to the last door, there's a procedure for picking up and dropping off your child. When you pick up and drop off your child, our nursery workers will give you some information and they'll answer your questions for you. Those workers rotate from service to service under the direction of Mrs. Skidmore. Now, I know, because I'm the father of 3 children, that the last thing you want to hear is your child crying when you leave. But that's a normal thing. When you leave the nursery, you'll be given one of these. It is a parent pass, and it's a pager. If our staff cannot get your child settled down, or if they need you during the service for any reason, they can page you anywhere in our building. Rest assured, making your children feel comfortable is one of our highest priorities. Our Sunday morning service begins at 10 o'clock with traditional hymns, Bible reading, prayer, and then a Bible-based message. When I get up to begin the message, I will dismiss those who are 3 years old through the 3rd grade to go to our junior church program. They'll go out the auditorium and into the foyer. Our workers will meet them there and take them to their classrooms. The service begins at 10 o'clock, and it'll go to between 11:15 and 11:30. When the service is over, the junior church workers will bring the young people back up and bring them directly to you. The same thing is true for Sunday night, except Sunday nights there is no junior church, and our young people sit in the church service with their families. There's a lot more that I would like to show you, but we're about out of time.
Hi, my name is Tim. I'm a pastor of preaching here at Grace Baptist Church, and I just want to invite you to join us some Sunday. I know you'll find a warm group, a family of Christians that will embrace you and help you to grow in your Christian faith. We're actually right in the middle of Queens, Forest Hills, and just like Queens, our church is very diverse as well. People from all over the world, many different ethnicities, languages, food, and even situations, life, ages, all kind of mixed together to form a healthy, vibrant body. And we wanted you to join with us. It's interesting how the church is kind of like made up of all these different jewels, right? We all have these different backgrounds that we bring to the table, and the Lord is shaping us, fashioning us to what He wants us to be. And He wants to shape you as well. He may use a chisel. He may use pressure, and sometimes that doesn't feel so good. But it's all to make you more like Jesus. And when we meet on Sunday, it's like He's bringing us all together, shaping us, fashioning us into a diadem or a crown to fit on the head of the church, the King of Kings, Jesus. And so when we meet together, we need you to join too, to be a sparkling jewel in that crown, to worship the Lord. So please come and take part. You may say, well, what is Grace Baptist Church like? Whenever somebody asks me that, I really try to say it's a Bible-driven church or a Bible-based church. What does that mean? Well, if you were to ask one person what they would want in a church or another person what they would want in a church, you'd probably get two different solutions or answers to the question, what do you want in church? And what we've tried to do is ask the question, what does God want in church? And of course, we know the answer to that would be in the Bible.